Pandit and Yamdoot story. Once upon a time, a Pandit, very knowledgeable scholar, was on way to meet his close childhood friend who was handicapped since childhood. Pandit's friend village was far away and he had to pass by many small villages to reach his friend's village. On way he met a man. That man also started walking with him. Pandit thought it's good to have company on such long way, so he didn't mind. When Pandit asked that man told him that his name is Mahakal. Priest found name very strange but didn't find it right to ask him any further about his name. Both of them kept walking. Soon they reached a village. There Mahakal said to Pandit, "You go ahead, I have to give a message in this village. I will see you on way ahead." Pandit replied, "Okay," and continued on his way. On his way, Pandit came to know that a man was killed by buffalo. Soon, Mahakal returned to Pandit. While walking, both of them reached outside village. There they saw a small temple. Arrangement of accommodation seemed fine there and Pandit's friend's village was still far away. So he decided to rest there for the night. Pandit said to Mahakal, "Exhaustion is too much. So we must rest here. We will leave again in morning tomorrow." Mahakal replied, "Okay, but I have to give some item to someone in nearby village. So I will come back after giving that." After saying this, Mahakal left. After a little while, Pandit saw that smoke was rising from village and gradually whole village was on fire. It was same village where Mahakal went. Seeing this, Pandit was surprised and thought to himself, "Wherever this Mahakal goes, why is there some kind of loss? There is definitely something wrong." Mahakal returned a while later to temple. In morning both of them started walking toward their destination. After some time, another village came and Mahakal told Pandit, "You go ahead. I have some work in this village too. So, I will meet you later on way." Saying this, Mahakal left. This time Pandit didn't move forward and went after Mahakal to keep watch on him to see where he goes and what he does. While Pandit was keeping eye on Mahakal, he heard that a man was bitten by a snake and that man died on spot. Pandit didn't said anything there and both continued on their way. After a while Pandit couldn't stop himself from asking and said to Mahakal, "Wherever you go, some kind of loss happens. Can tell me what happens after all?" Mahakal replied to Pandit, "You seem to be a wise man, that's why I started walking with you because company of wise is always good. But yet you don't understand who I really am?" Pandit replied, "I have understood but still I want to clear my doubt. It will be easy for me if you can introduce yourself properly." Mahakal replied, "I am Yamdoot, servant of Yamraj. By order of Yamraj, god of death, I came to kill those people whose lifetime has been completed." Although Pandit already had that idea, still hearing about it made him a little nervous. Still he asked, "If it is so, tell me whose death is next." Mahakal replied, "Next death is a friend of yours to whom you are going to meet and you will be cause of his death." On hearing this, Pandit was stunned and was in great dismay. He thought to himself, "If what Mahakal said is true, then my friend would die and that's also because of me. I don't want to be cause of his death. I should not go to his village to meet him." Just when Pandit was thinking this, Mahakal said, "I know what you are thinking, but you not going to meet your friend will not change the destiny. Your friend's death is certain and it is going to happen in next few moments." On hearing this from mouth of Mahakal, Pandit was shocked because Mahakal could read his mind. Because of this, Pandit was convinced that Mahakal was indeed a Yamdoot. So, he immediately turned back to return to his village. But as soon as he turned back, he saw that a man was coming swiftly toward him. When man came closer, Pandit realized that it was his friend, whom he was going to meet. Seeing him, Pandit realized that his friend was very tired and it seemed that he had been following him for a long time. As soon as friend reached Pandit, suddenly he fell and died. Pandit looked at Mahakal with astonished eyes as if he was asking what had happened to his friend. Mahakal understood that and said, Your friend was following you from previous village but couldn't reach you because of being dumb and handicapped in one leg. Neither could he reach you, nor could he call you. He used all his body strength to reach you, but in old age body doesn't have that much strength. So your friend died due to heart attack, and it is because of you he crossed his body limits. He was running after you, trying to reach. After hearing that, Pandit realized that Mahakal was definitely a Yamdoot. Pandit was a knowledgeable person and knew that no one can control death and everyone has to die one day. So, he was able to handle himself that time. Pandit got curious and asked, "Can you tell me when and how I will die?" Mahakal replied, "Although it is not appropriate for any common living being to know this because any living being get troubled by knowing about his death. But you are a wise person, and seeing how you were able to accept death of your friend, it seems to me that you will not get upset or troubled even after knowing about your death. You will die exactly after 6 months from today by hanging in another king's kingdom, and surprising thing is that you yourself will happily accept your hanging." Mahakal started leaving because now he had no reason to continue walking with Pandit. After Mahakal left, Pandit performed all the after-death rituals for his friend and returned his village. No matter how knowledgeable a person may be, after knowing about his death, he get disturbed and try to avoid death. Pandit also did same. Since Pandit was a famous scholar, even king knew about him. He thought king has many wise ministers and maybe they can help him find solution to problem related to his death. So, Pandit reached king's court and told whole thing to king. King shared this problem with his ministers and sought for their advice. After much discussion, it was decided that if words of Pandit are true then he will die after 6 months, but for that he have to go to other kingdom. If he does not go outside kingdom, then his death can be avoided. So, arrangement were made for Pandit to stay in palace and no person could meet him without king's permission. But Pandit was allowed to go anywhere so that he doesn't feel like he was in king's captivity. Although Pandit was allowed to go on his own will, he would still avoid going out, because of fear. Gradually time passed. On day before the day of death, Pandit went to sleep hurriedly in fear so that night and next day would pass quickly and his death would be averted. But Pandit had sleep disorder about which he himself didn't know. After he went to sleep, he started sleepwalking. He got up and walked out of his room and went toward palace's horse stable. No one stopped him or made any kind of inquiry because all servant knew that he was special guest of king. After reaching stable, he picked fastest horse and went out of kingdom, reached other kingdom in unconsciousness state of sleep. Not only this, he reached palace of king of another kingdom. It was a coincidence that all people and guards were asleep when Pandit was entering palace, so no one stopped or inquired him. Pandit went straight to king's bedroom where king and queen were sleeping and slept next to queen on bed. When it was morning, king woke up and saw Pandit sleeping next to queen. King became very angry and Pandit was arrested. Pandit couldn't understand how he reached other kingdom and entered directly into king's bedroom. After some time king court was held and Pandit was presented before king. When king saw the Pandit, he got so angry that he ordered for Pandit to be hanged. Pandit trembled after hearing death sentence. Then he calmed himself down and said to king, "Sir, I do not know how I reached this kingdom. What I remember is I fell asleep at my king's palace. I don't know how I came into your bedroom and why none of the guards in your kingdom stopped me, but what I know is I was to die today and it's happening." King found this a bit strange. He asked, "How do you know that you were to die today?" In response Pandit told him whole story and said, "Any common man can't even think to sit in presence of king. How can I even think of sleeping in king's room next to queen? This would be complete suicide. Why would I come from another kingdom to die like this?" King found Pandit words a little appropriate, but still he thought maybe Pandit was making excuse to save himself from punishment. Since king of neighboring kingdom was his friend, he immediately sent a letter along with some soldiers to king and asked for proof of truthfulness of words of Pandit. Soldiers returned before evening and they told king, neighboring kings reply, Whatever Pandit said is true, and even we don't know how he reached there in middle of night. It would not be appropriate to give death sentence to him. But now a new problem arise. Since king had already sentenced death punishment to Pandit, without knowing whole story, now if Pandit is not hanged, then statement of king would be insulted, and if punishment is given to keep king words, then Pandit will die wrongly. King mentioned this to his ministers, and after much discussion they came to conclusion and said, "You should hang Pandit with a cotton thread. With this honor of your words will be maintained, and death of Pandit will not happen, as he cannot die by being hanged on using a single thread." King found idea appropriate and gave same order. A noose was made of cotton thread, and according to king's word, for Pandit to be hanged. Pandit also believed that a single thread of cotton would not kill him, so he also happily agreed to be hanged. But as soon as the Pandit was hanged, the thread of the cotton broke, but it did its work before breaking. The vein in the neck of the Pandit was cut by the thread, and he was lying on the ground in agony. Blood was pouring out of his throat with every beat, and within a few moments, his body was completely calm. He was dead. All people watched this in astonishment, and no one could believe that a weak thread could kill someone. But the incident happened, and destiny has done its work. Possibilities and lesson? Had the Pandit not asked Mahakal about his death, he would have lived a much better life for the next 6 months, instead of living in fear every day after being imprisoned in the king's palace. That is why God has not given us the ability to know the future, so that we can live our life in a better way. The death of a Pandit was related to his friend, because if he had not been going to meet his friend, he would not have got Mahakal on the way, and the Pandit would not have asked him questions related to his death. Whatever has to happen, remains to be. No matter how many precautions we take or whatever measures we take, but every incident and the whole fabric of that event is predetermined, which we cannot move around even a little bit. Whereas if the Pandit had not gone to meet his friend and his friend had not been dumb and handicapped since childhood, he would not have died, because in that case he could have stopped his friend by giving a voice from behind. That is, the disability that nature had given him from childhood was related to his death. Whatever nature has made and made it as it is because of some reason, and it is wrong to question its existence, because every person, thing or situation is related to some event which is to happen. In the same way, if the Pandit himself had known about his sleeping disorder, he would have mentioned this to the king in advance. If he had come out of the king's palace, then some guard must stop him. King could have made some such arrangement, so that the Pandit could not wake up in his sleep and go anywhere. That means, for the occurrence of every event, nature already sows all the seeds, which germinate at their fixed time and contribute to the occurrence of that event. So there is no point in fighting with nature, because we do not know what will be the reasons for the occurrence of which event and when, where and how the seeds related to those causes have been sown, and this is what we call luck in simple words.